Welcome, my name is Ashwin Rao. I'm the product manager for NetBeans. And I've got with me here John Ceccarelli, director of engineering, Tinu, and she's the program manager for NetBeans. Now, this is a BOF, right? So we're hoping that this is probably going to be a little more informal in the way we want to do things, a little more interactive if it's possible. It can be quite interesting when it gets interactive, so we might have to take some time out sometimes in case we have to, and see how it goes. Now, we're talking about NetBeans, the road ahead. And from my perspective, you know, when you talk about the road ahead, it's a bit of a journey. And this journey pretty much involves people. Now, from our perspective, you know, it all involves a community. So, you know, just curiosity, how many of you were here on Sunday morning for the NetBeans Day? All right, okay.
Nice.
And the keynote? I guess you all stayed back for the keynote? Fair enough. So we did touch upon a little bit about, you know, what we want to do in NetBeans, and we kind of indicated we'll talk more at the BOF. So thank you for coming. Now, before I get ahead, the legal slide. But honestly, the key thing here is, you know, we are talking about roadmaps, and we are talking about things that could change, right? So this is what we have as of the information we have today. And
we don't even know for sure when we're releasing 7.3 beta, much less when we're going to release NetBeans 9.
Yes, yeah, isn't it?
It's going to be sometime this week.
Sometime this week.
Sometime this week.
So let's get that out of the way. Now, from my perspective, I want to kind of talk a little bit in terms of, you know, when we're doing this journey together, really, I think before we start talking about exactly what our plans are, what influences our plans, right? What's the objectives that we have? Kind of, for me, it's around these things. It's about supporting the Java platform. That's kind of a #1 objective. It's supporting the Java platform. It's about, from an IDE perspective. It's about getting that day one support for the platform and so on and so forth. It's also about end-to-end development. And end-to-end development is, you know, is going to involve things that might be complementary technologies and things of that sort. So, you know, you have the Java platform, you want to make sure you can be productive in it. And there might be technology areas that are complementary to it. So we've got to kind of tackle that as well. And it's also about emerging technologies. And I kind of want to kind of preface that, and, you know, perhaps people here have different opinions as well, that it's about emerging technologies that are complementary to the end effect, the Java platform itself, and the ecosystem that helps. You know, you have HTML5, you know, all that stuff is good, but it's best when you can leverage all the things that you've already done with the backend and services and consumption of services. So it's about emerging technologies that kind of help you, you know, always also leverage what you already invested in. So that's pretty much kind of the motivation. Now, clearly, the big blue circle that indicates the Java platform, and a lot of that kind of we have to focus on. Now, to kind of talk about the objectives, how do we meet our objectives? What defines a strategy? There are certain influences, right? It's clear. There are two things that really come about. There's the Java platform roadmap. Yeah, we are always in discussions with the Java platform. And that, in essence, doesn't mean it's only Oracle, because A, the Java platform is also built, the roadmap is also influenced by the community, right? So there is a community influence over there. But once that is all kind of boiled in, we've got to look at it and say, okay, how do we support that? That's kind of well-baked, and it's, I guess it's a little more clearer because people have some kind of idea about where things are going. And there are industry and technology trends, right? So when I say that it gets in, we've got to look at, okay, that's fantastic, and what else is happening that can influence that? Can we address it? Perhaps we can't, perhaps we can, but, you know, we've got to look at all of those things. And that kind of pushes into our roadmap. So fundamentally, there is a whole aspect of making sure that we can understand the industry, technology, and trends. I think I'm going to kind of, obviously the Java platform stuff, if you were at the keynote, you'll see that there are always these discussions ongoing. If you've seen the keynote, you know, Hassan's got those information up there about the NetBeans support that's coming for the future versions. Nandini and George, everybody came and talked, and there's a lot of specific ideas of what we want to do. So that's kind of clear. But in terms of how do we address industry technology trends, of course, market analysis, there are lots of analyst data we try to get our hands on. There's lots of survey data we try to get our hands on. We look at it. But there's one key thing about VOC, and really it's about voice of the customer and community engagement aspect of it. And I think there are certain aspects that, when we start looking at what defines the roadmap, we also define how do we do that, right? What is the engagement model? To talk a little bit more about that, I'm going to ask Tinu to kind of take over.
Sure. Is this on?
It is on, yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, so we have a few ways that we interact with the community to collect feedback. Naturally, we turn to our forums and our mailing lists, and we have a bunch of social media channels, and we interact with the community this way. We encourage our users to file bug reports, RFEs, requests for enhancements, to vote on these issues, because the higher number of votes a particular issue or feature request has, the more we're going to give it priority in the work that we do. But there are two other programs that have, or two specific programs that have a significant impact on the work we do and our roadmap, respectively. One of them is NetCat, which is the NetBeans Community Acceptance Testing Program. Are people familiar with NetCat?
How many people How many people here have been part of a NetCat thing?
That's great. Okay.
Familiar or part of? Okay, that's familiar.
Okay, familiar. Part of NetCat.
How many people have participated in NetCat?
All right. Nice. Okay. Woohoo.
We love all of you. We love you.
Right. So for those who don't know what NetCat is, against the Community Acceptance Testing Program. And these are volunteers that are drawn from the community at the start of the beta cycle of our releases to help our engineers with testing and filing bug reports and things of that sort. And NetCat has proven to be an invaluable resource in the work that we do. And to date, I believe they filed over 7,000
that's what it says.
Reports, right? So we love our NetCat folks, and actually Glenn Holmer, who's in the audience, say hello, Glenn.
Hey.
Yeah, so he's actually one of our longtime NetCat participants, and we thanked them at the community event yesterday. So another program that we use to gauge community feedback are our user satisfaction surveys. And with NetBeans 7.0 and 7.1, we launched these surveys to gauge the response from the community about what they thought we were doing well and areas in which we could improve. And in the next couple of slides, I think you're actually going to see results or aspects of results of these surveys. So you can.
Yep. Okay. So, but just before I get into that, perhaps let me ask: how many of you have actually voted on bugs? All right. And I'm going to ask.
And did your bug get fixed?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yes. No. Yes.
No. Okay.
You fixed it yourself? There we go. Take the law into your own hands.
Right. Okay. So, point to know. I mean, I think it's really important that we get that feedback. Now, there are times when you voted on bugs, and there's been probably no action on it, or it's not been fixed, and so on and so forth. And again, we do take that into account. We have to go through a prioritization process ourselves. Now, clearly, one angle of it is to kind of see is there ways we can actually improve that program to get that benefit on and have those discussions there. And we're looking at that, and we want to look at it, and we want to see if that potentially can improve. But don't stop because you feel that your vote has not been acted upon. Clearly, it has been recognized, and we do look at it, and we look at that data very thoroughly.
Yep.
There are times when many times I guess, when we have to say, look, let's defer it and things of that sort. And that might be
classic example was line wrap, right? So being able to wrap the line at the end of an editor seems like a really simple thing. Required us to rewrite the entire editor the entire editor painting infrastructure, and up until the time when PHP became really prevalent inside of NetBeans, people were requesting it and voting for it, but it was just like, this is going to be too painful for us for the amount of, for how hard it, for the amount of people who are using it. Once the PHP people became 30% of our users, basically, it was like, yeah, the PHP guys do this all the time and want this all the time. It's a lot less prevalent when you're writing Java code, I think, to wrap your lines.
Yep. So that's clearly some of the things. So and also so the surveys that we did, and I know I went through this yesterday. Was it Sunday? Yep. It already seemed like a couple of days. Just for the benefit of those who weren't there, I'll quickly run through it. We asked these questions about the overall satisfaction, and then we asked questions specifically pertaining to the things we did in that release, right? So, and we asked for some more vocal feedback in terms of textual feedback of what you want to see. Now, the key barometer for us is really the recommendation index, and that's like, if you guys are using it or any product, I think the success measure is whether you can actually say, hey, come on, I would love, I love it, so why don't you use it? If you were able to kind of get that message of people that that would mean that the product is doing something well there. So in our sense, this is the most important thing, and for us, it was good to see 89% saying they would recommend, although I think there's definitely room for improvement. And it was kind of substantiated when we started digging into the data points. And as I mentioned on Sunday, the key data points that we came out, and that's what I'm presenting here, were, look, a lot of things, a lot of improvement was possible, it looks like, in the performance space. And that kind of makes sense, because if you have too many features, but if your performance is no good, I don't think it really sticks. I mean, again, if I were to say we have to make anything feature-rich, but if the performance is not really good, that's probably a showstopper for you. Would you agree? Yep. Okay. So I see a few nods, and that kind of was indicated here. We had, having said that, I'll emphasize these are good numbers, right? I mean, this is your satisfaction compared to previous releases. 65% said more satisfied. So if you really look at the negatives, they are 12% or less than 15%, 15% or less. But I would love for that number to come down. I'm not saying I have any scientific data, but I think anything under 10% is a good, strong challenge there. I want to make it even smaller. So there's ample room for improvement. And we did the same thing with 7.1. The actual recommendation index actually improved, right? So from 11% saying no, we had 9%. We had actually 2,196 responses. And what I loved about the fact was we hit about 2,000 responses on the first day itself, if I remember the chart. And I said, wow, it's like, people had really started using this particular version, and we got the feedback in, and that feedback helped. The numbers were pretty much similar with, again, a little bit more. And now, keep in mind, with 7.1, you're also comparing with the previous release, with 7.0 as well. So it's not just in comparison with the old ones, it's with the more latest ones. And the numbers are still fairly good, but with room for improvement. So from a roadmap perspective, we did 7.0, and we went through that details yesterday. So I'm not going to go through a lot, go through the 7.2 feature set anyway, but we improved performance. We worked on it, and I think we expended a lot of brain cells capital on this one, and I'm hoping we have some left for the rest of the features coming up. There was a hell of a lot of work that we did on, the team did on smarter project scanning, which helped with the performance. And there were lots of interesting data points we got, we started getting. Up to 65% improvements in the performance startup times and things of that sort. A lot of reduction in redundant scanning, so on and so forth. And we've got data like silverpiece.org saying they could open a project, a large project, something that took them about 2 minutes and 30 seconds or so, opening, what was it? It
was a large Maven-based program, went down to 40 seconds,
something like
from that. 2 minutes and 38 seconds.
So the data we had justified it, but we're not stopping. So one of the things that we recognized was that we have to keep the bar high for performance. And John mentioned the next thing that we want to tackle that's going to be part of our listing is memory usage.
Memory usage, yeah.
You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I mean, just, first, the biggest complaint that we heard was about project scanning blocking, people. So you had to wait for the scanning to finish before you could continue. So we made it a parallel task so that it would run off the previously cached data and let you keep working off that data while it was doing a new scan. And we also just optimize the scan quite a bit. So the next complaint that people have is that we use up too much memory. The memory footprint is too large on NetBeans. And indeed, it does seem to shoot up to up rather high with a surprisingly small amount of activity in the IDE. So that is the next frontier for us, and I've set some very aggressive targets with my team, and hopefully we can achieve the same results on our memory consumption that we've achieved with project scanning in 7.2.
So can I ask a question, slightly turn that around a bit. Who here is really happy and satisfied with the memory use, performance of the NetBeans IDE?
Yeah?
All right,
Never
okay,
noticed any problems.
that's good.
Yeah, right.
That's good.
Yeah. So anybody had problems either with clients or students or whatever saying that NetBeans takes up too much memory? Yes? So is this mostly because down in Brazil we've got lower powered machines in the universities, or?
Sorry, we didn't catch that.
Too many modules?
Two more.
Okay.
Okay.
Other people have had, yeah? With static code analysis, they're getting out of OMEs, right? Anybody else have, yeah? Okay, so the NetBeans platform app's taking up too much memory. Okay. All right. Well, this is our next big thing. This is our. Module based. Right. I mean, in NetBeans. So NetBeans IDE itself has the dev builds have this profile me now application functionality built into it, so that you can profile the IDE itself, like when it hits things. It's also got built-in checks, so that if the execution thread gets frozen up for more than a certain amount of time, it'll give you a little warning and say, we've detected some slowness, and then you can grab a heap dump from that. I'm not sure how you can do that inside of a platform app, but if it's in there, then it should be exposable inside of a platform app, but we need to ask. Kirtan, do you know? It's in the platform as well, yeah?
See?
Okay.
To repeat it, you're saying since 7.1 we had it.
Yeah. Huh? You have to put the memory toolbar in, but you can do that for your dev builds and stuff, and while you're developing it, or you can make it an option to turn it on. And if some of your customers are complaining that they're seeing this a lot, say, okay, turn this on, and the next time you see it, hit that and send me the report. Yeah. There's a command line switch that you can use also in production, right? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, what I've heard is from education. The people I've heard it the most from have been, EDU, universities and so forth. Usually in, areas either in Africa or so some of the people who were in the Egyptian university program were telling me that it was difficult, No, it should run fine on 4 gigs. Yeah. Exactly.
I am from India, but I haven't lived in India for a while now, so I can't really say I'm representing immediately. But I still know that in many of these, even in corporate entities, right, the junior level developers don't get a massive system to work on. They just that's what we that's true. But
that's what we say too.
That's what. But yeah, you do have some older profile systems still in the workplace. Yeah. So okay.
I'll put it back over.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the things I want to leave behind is, as part of this road ahead thing, is keep in mind that's going to be prevalent aspect of what we're thinking to do in the next one. So I mean, features, yes, but we want to focus on memory. So that's going to be there as part of our efforts moving ahead. So got a few slides here. You should probably be very familiar with the 7.3 thing by now, right? We've announced, the previewed easel that was, we showed at a keynote. We showed it at the NetBeans Day, and really that's really the foundation. Once again, it's going to be from a roadmap perspective. What you see in easel is really the foundation for what we would like to do and perhaps start thinking of doing, right? So based on some of the newer things that's coming, EE7 or in the EE space and so on and so forth. So that's good. And we'll probably have a quick look at some additional aspects of it very soon. There's also Oracle Public Cloud work that we've done. We should be having those available shortly.
As soon as Oracle Public Cloud comes out, we'll have same-day support for it as well.
So that's going on. And there's ME 3.2 updates that we put into that, and the embedded update. So
yeah, I think we will follow what the focus of the platform orgs are. Right now, the big things are obviously, as you could probably tell by the large collection of little boards and gadgets and things at the keynote, embedded and M2M is a huge deal. And so we're going to be focusing heavily on that. HTML5 is a huge deal, so we're going to be focusing on that and how that ties back to the server, either through Avatar or just calling directly some EE7 thin server architecture. We'll be focusing on Avatar. We'll be doing rolling updates to support the Oracle Cloud as we go forward, and then any other updates in the specs. So those are, when you think back to the slide, where the roadmap comes from, and one side is the platform. That's our platform direction right there. And then the other side will be mostly dictated by, kind of us having our ears to the ground, listening to what you guys are telling us and what the latest trends are. And
I want to add to that.
Yeah.
If you look at back in 7.2, there are a few things that we already started working on with respect to the VOC that we got. A lot of the VOC that we got in terms of, we said, okay, what kind of features you want? Static analysis was quite prominent over there, right? There was a lot of people saying, hey, we want better abilities to kind of figure out how good our code is. And that's something that we picked up from there, and we said, okay, it'll be good, if we can do something that will be useful. And we got the find bugs integration that we walked through in detail yesterday, or in some detail yesterday, thanks to Gert Young. And to some extent, the HTML5 support was a fair amount. When we talk about HTML5, let's be honest, the foundations are what? Better JavaScript, editing capabilities, better CSS, the core stuff. Those were feedback that we got prominently as part of these surveys. So we've already addressed some parts of that, and we will, after we go through this platform-oriented kind of roadmap, we will talk about features again that we were asking for and how we can tackle that. So keep that in mind. So that from the industry trends perspective, those are the things that have already gone into 7.2 and now coming in 7.3.
Ashwin,
yeah.
Can we ask if people are satisfied with the ways that they can interact or give feedback to the NetBeans team? Because every once in a while, there are people who say, well, I filed this bug and nothing ever happened. Does anyone listen? And we have things like the survey and Netcat and our social media channels, but I'm curious to know if from people in the room, if they feel that they have good access to the NetBeans team, at least to get their as part of Netcat, right? Acknowledged. Right, right.
Cool.
And others, none?
No, we do. We do. We do. Yeah.
The future of NetBeans IDE is tied to the platform. So, so the platform is absolutely important for us.
Yeah. We don't have any. I mean, we're using Bugzilla right now, and you know, I personally like Jira better than Bugzilla for sure, but not so much better that I would go through the migration. I mean, frankly, do you miss having Jira? I mean, is it a big deal?
Well, I'm used to Jira.
Yeah. Right, right. I mean, we hear the same. We also hear, you know, are there any plans to get off of Mercurial and get onto Git, since Git is, you know, more, you know, popular than Mercurial, or so. Oh, I'm seeing some boos in the back. Not everybody's a Git fanboy, but no, there's no plans to. Yes, right. Mercurial was supported by NetBeans before Git. Well, we had to because, you know, we have all of our sources in it. Right. Yes? I'm sorry. Did you get it?
I'd like to get off Mercurial. Is it? Sorry, did you say off or on? Off Mercurial.
Off Mercurial.
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, you know, Mercurial's been good to us, I think. You know, it's allowed us to do a lot of things that definitely CVS and Subversion didn't let us do. Internally, it's allowed us to chunk out our build infrastructure per team. So what we have is each team has its own build repository, and those are isolated from the rest of the changes. So each team can be a lot more aggressive in checking in code because they know the only people's builds they're going to break are the people that sit next to them, and those people will just lean over and punch them. Which is nicer than getting a call from your EVP that you broke the build. Any plans to provide language support for Scala? So there's a community contributed Scala plugin that's really quite good, right, Peter?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a resounding recommendation. Yeah, so there is if you go on the Update Center, there's a plugin that provides support for Scala. The Eclipse one is much better. Right.
Okay.
Well, like I said, it's not officially staffed, right? You know, so it's a community effort. Whereas I assume that some of the developers who actually do Scala actually provide the plugin straight to Eclipse. Right.
And how many of you are actually looking at Scala or already working with it? Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Sorry, you had one question.
Right. Right. So the question is, you know, write once, run anywhere doesn't really work when you get into app servers because you have all the app server specific metadata and so forth. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much there is that we as an IDE could do about that. I suppose we could have some automated tooling where if you wanted to migrate from, say, JBoss to Glassfish, we could sniff the JBoss specific config files and try to convert those to the types of things that Glassfish would be expecting. We haven't done that so far. We haven't had a huge amount of requests for it. But as for being able to write code that inherently is portable across app servers, we just haven't seen a huge use case for that. I mean, most people are, huh? Cloud is the use case for that.
You're going to be writing objects that you not in the cloud, and it's like, which vendor am I using? Which vendor am I going to have to work?
Yeah, yeah.
Because your objects are going to want to move across the cloud and the internet is the cloud.
Right, right.
So it's
And I'm just, I guess a question from my standpoint is, the theory behind all of it is, okay, you've got these standards and you're writing to the EE6 spec and so on and so forth. And a bit, all of these containers then have their own layers for performance optimization and things of that sort, right? Is the problem there that is, you're doing these tweaks for those specific containers, or is it at the spec level that you're having the breaking?
but it's just stuff that's old. Network, file system, all the old stuff that's been around for 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff is well known. You can just open a file object and write to it.
Mm-hmm.
4J, log4j. You can open a log and it might be writing to network somewhere with a file.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff's been around so long, it's pretty well known. The cloud, web servers, they have been around long enough. Everybody can do it the same way. It's going to be machine.
Right.
I'd love to actually have this conversation.
Uh-huh.
All that's great except for
Right, right. So, it's, right.
But
So-
my code actually is great in JBoss or
Right. So for the rest of the audience, what you're saying is that you had an issue with the secure cookies kind of thing, that's work that you did. Fix
Right.
it. Yeah, I think we should probably see, I'd love to have this conversation with the EE teams itself and see
Yeah,
what it is.
exactly.
I just want to see the radar.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Well, it's probably on the radar for the discussion now. Okay, thanks.
So,
Yeah.
You guys have, NetBeans has really good collaborative coding stuff.
uh-huh.
Is there a plan to expand that to maybe like testing?
Collaborative testing?
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
So how would, what would collaborative testing look like?
Like make it easier for us to do peer reviews and stuff.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, peer
all right.
reviews and stuff. Yep.
So there's a bit of history in it. I don't know whether you were familiar with it, but we did put in some kind of file sharing capabilities and things like that a while back. NetBeans.
wow.
It actually came from Sun Java Studio Enterprise, right?
Yeah.
And the concept there was kind of to start engaging this kind of peer reviews and so on and so forth, so people could actually look at code, make changes on the fly, and have a look at it. Now, do we want to go? I think there are two things that happened. One is to really build out that whole spec, we had to make some investments in the infrastructure side of it, some shared repositories and so on and so forth. And eventually that decision was kind of taken off. So I don't know, John, but in terms of how we dropped out of the NetBeans builds, it's probably an aspect of A, resources to some extent, and B, an issue with...
there were a lot of reasons why. People really liked the ability to work on that, but there were a lot of problems with how it was implemented and so forth. So peer reviews. So anybody remember Connected Developer and our Kenai support? Right, so yay! JB helped write it. When Kenai was a public project that Sun was pushing, we put in a lot of infrastructure there for how to share projects and be able to see your dashboard and so forth. And then Kenai turned into Java.Net or morphed into the backend behind Java.Net. We put that in, we left it in there. But Java.Net itself doesn't provide code review capabilities. So we looked at it. It's actually rather simple to write a UI for code review and so forth. What's difficult is to find where are you going to store it? What's the repository, right? So we looked at it. We're like, should we, abuse, like a bug tracker and use that as data? Should we have our own metadata? Should it be local? Should there be a server piece? What should we do? What we decided was to not do anything until we were linked up with with kind of forges or SCM systems that supported it, and then just go through that, right? So there's a couple of things that we looked at. One is as the cloud story evolves, as the Oracle Cloud story evolves, there will be ALM tools inside the Oracle Cloud story, and as soon as those, and NetBeans will support those from day one, and as soon as those offer code reviews, we'll offer it through that. The other idea we've kicked around is, but we haven't had the resources to work on, is should we provide the kind of connectivity that we had with Java.Net, should we provide that with GitHub, right? So that you're not just doing, Git clones and so forth, but that you can do your pull requests and everything and do your code reviews and so forth from inside the IDE. Something we've looked at, but we haven't had the resources to bubble it up to the top and actually implement.
Right. So basically, that's on the radar in terms of what we want to look at. And I want to bring the initial thing. The reason why some of the earlier stuff didn't work was like we realized there's a lot of infrastructure investments that need to be made. And now with the cloud, that's kind of something that we can leverage. And so that's something we want to put on the radar map. Yep. That's a good point. By the way, how many of you would actually like to use something like that? These kind of peer-to-peer reviews and file sharing, so on and so forth. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Alrighty. So let's kind of, in terms of time, we're going to quickly run through some of these specifics. So that in terms of releases, the way we look at it is, okay, we have these big bucket items, right, that are kind of aligned with the Java platform. And then we look at all the industry trends and influence that we can at least address and see where we put on the roadmap. And that is probably a decision that's a little bit more focused on from in a particular release and see what we work on. So there's the next release would the big release would kind of focus on the EE7 support, and we'll go through that in detail. And then we have a big bucket for the 8 support and the 9 support. So that's targeted with the Java platform. You've seen the roadmap yesterday.
And obviously there will be something between JDK 8 and JDK 9. We're not going to go 2 years without a release. It's just, planning for anything that's longer than 18 months away is kind of a futile exercise inside Oracle.
And also,
right now. Yeah?
Is there a time frame for a release NetBeans that supports Lambdas?
That supports Lambdas?
Telling us, well, yeah, download the JDK, okay, you can do that.
No, there should be a developer preview. No, there should be a developer preview already that supports Lambdas. I was surprised that they weren't in the slides, but I know internally we have a build that already supports the current version of Lambdas. So I'll make sure. Yeah, he's the guy who works on our Lambda support. So there you go.
Yep, basically we have build of NetBeans that supports Lambdas on continuous builder, but it's not like formalized in some download page, nothing like that. It's just builds when we commit something.
Right.
That's it. Yes, it's public. It's Bertram to NetBeans.org.
Yeah, we'll talk with Brian Getz and we'll make sure that we'll put up a link to a build up on the thing. I know I wrote some emails about it before Java 1, but things were kind of hectic. Things were kind of crazy, so it obviously didn't make the cut.
All right. So we'll get into some more details of features that are not tied to the Java platform a little later on. So the rationale for 7.3 VOC was that. So that we had a lot of people asking for better JavaScript editing capabilities, better HTML5 support, and so on and so forth. Need to focus on the cutting edge and the foundation. So we walked through all of that. I guess some of the questions that we have is, we've approached this way where it's more code-centric, right? I mean, rather than Wysiwyg aspects of it, things of that sort. And there's a kind of interesting questions that we tend to get, all right? If you are doing all these kinds of web client developments, do we really think a Wysiwyg is a good kind of tool for professional websites? What's the answer? Do you like Wysiwyg? No. Thumbs down. Thumbs
Good,
down.
because we're not doing it. Hey, all right. This is the first time we've gotten applauded for not doing something. That's much easier than having to get applause for actually doing stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, especially in, the thing is, in a well-structured, well-understood environment that you own, it's possible to do Wysiwyg and actually make you somewhat productive in it. So, the GWT guys have had some success with it. ADF and JDev has had some success with doing Wysiwyg and so forth. You're looking at HTML and JavaScript right now. It's the Wild West out there. There's no, we have a hard enough time just providing editor features for everybody's favorite JavaScript frameworks. Much less. We're gonna do Wysiwyg that actually does what you tell it to do and produces code that isn't garbage. It's a fool's errand, and we'd rather just not chase it. So that we've really focused more on, in the editor and then tying the editor to the browser so that you can preview what your rendered thing looks like as you're coding it, but you're still the one who's coding it. Yep.
Cool. How are we doing for time? So we've got another
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. Let's run through some of this. So EE7.
Let's go to the slide where we say what we're not going to do.
Okay. So let's
we got applause last time. Let's see if it still works.
That means 9, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty common kind of things. And then here's the top feature requests. Right?
This is top feature requests that we're not doing, actually. All right, so these come up again and again and again. So Visual Web is up there again, right? We had Visual Web, and people were very upset with us when we canceled Visual Web. Visual Web was again one of those things that was JSF. It was tied to a specific component set, right? Which was the Woodstock component set, and in the long and painful death spiral of Sun, Woodstock was one of the first casualties, right? And when they cut the component set, it was like, well, we can't build this tool without a component set. We looked a little bit at should we swap in ice faces or some other component sets for it, but it became obvious very quickly that tool was written specifically to work with Woodstock. So we axed it, and people keep asking for it back. And we're not doing it, basically. Yeah, well, not all. That's not true that all Java guys don't care. I mean, I think there's a large class of developers who are corporate developers who work in frameworks who actually do expect this type of functionality. We have a tool for those people. It's called JDeveloper, right? NetBeans does not. Yeah. Yeah, ADF Faces works great, and JDev is a great tool that we put significant investment into getting that workflow working perfectly for. So we don't see the return on investment in putting that much work into doing it in NetBeans as well. And ADF just released the Essentials, ADF Essentials, which is a free, not open source, but a freely available version that anybody can use. So UML is the other one. How many people use UML? How many people want UML? Really? Really? What?
Look at that. He's got 2 hands up.
You got 2 hands up. Really?
That's all counted. 1 is fine.
So I guess the reports of UML's death were greatly overstated, I suppose. All right, UML is one of these things that what we really want to do is we want to grab JDeveloper's UML and put it into NetBeans. That's what we want to do. We don't want to build another UML system. We want to grab JDeveloper's and put it in NetBeans. People hated it. People kept yelling at us about it, that it was broken and it didn't work and the performance was awful. And, huh? 625.
John,
Yeah.
I'm going to take
Do it.
Do a yippee over there. That was from Sun Java Studio Enterprise.
Yeah.
I
know.
Look, having said that.
In case you haven't noticed, he used to work on Sun Java Studio
I used to product manage, and
Yes.
I was responsible for bringing UML into Sun Java Studio Enterprise. So I'm keeping a little silent here in terms of why it went out.
We've done a lot of work on getting large parts of NetBeans inside of JDev. That's just because of licensing reasons. It's the easier path to go. We've got some, and also NetBeans works on a much looser and freer release schedule than JDev does, so it's a lot easier for us to be able to do efforts like that. But we are looking at bringing code the other way. And,
so perhaps we've got
and the top thing on my list is UML, but we really don't have the resources to staff another a UML project built from scratch.
But there is, the fact is, look, there is UML within our teams, this thing. So, maybe
I mean, you can go and grab, JDeveloper and use JDeveloper's UML.
No.
Okay. He says no. All right. That's interesting because we heard nothing but complaints about our UML. It was used very widely, but we heard nothing but complaints about the performance and the lack of undo and so forth. And that was a big motivator for us dropping it. We felt like if we couldn't do it right, we weren't going to do it at all. Yeah, the ones. Okay, right. So the squeaky wheel. There was a squeaky wheel getting the worm. That for every person who was complaining, there were 100 happy users out there.
Nobody likes doing UML.
Nope.
Folks are forced to do UML.
Right.
We're not going to go out and say we love something that we're forced.
So you're already in a bad mood when you open up our tool because you have to do UML, and then you hit that bug, and you're like, NetBeans.
But the NetBeans dash off a quick diagram.
Yeah.
Get that checked off of your list.
Okay.
So how many of you would be satisfied with a lightweight UML support, as in, just kind of class diagram kind of thing, rather than the full one, full blown?
There's not very many good UML tools out there to begin with. So, I mean,
Not a lot of good UML tools. So what are the best tools out there right now?
well, since NetBeans UML doesn't work anymore, where I work, we have to use it's called Arrow UML, and that's horrible.
Arrow UML?
Yeah,
what other tools are people using for UML right now? Visual Paradigm, yeah.
It's a
But
monster, it's
huge.
important. Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Huh? Magic Draw.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
They were partners.
Dia?
Poseidon UML, but that was part of, that was the open source version of,
Right. Okay.
yeah. Rational, yep.
I think we need to keep moving down the path of trying to get UML, to not write the same bits of functionality like 3-4 times, one fresh one for each IDE. So we're going to keep moving down the path of trying to get get features like UML from JDev into NetBeans. If that becomes a dead end, then we will take a look at it because it's obviously a very highly requested feature. So
it is.
Yeah.
It does come in our survey as well, right?
And then Android, iOS.
Okay.
What can I say? We have an Android project. We have an Android plugin, community developed Android plugin on the Update Center that people seem to be quite happy with. This is not a big driver for us right now. Although what I can tell you is that with Project Easel, probably the first thing we'll do once we get the basic stuff done is throw PhoneGap support in. So you'll be able to, PhoneGap is a JavaScript library that lets you take HTML5 applications and package them as native applications for the phones. So instead of writing things in, either Objective-C or in Android, you can just write them in HTML5, wrap them up, and throw them, So that's probably the first thing we will do once we get the initial release out. So that'll be our story for deploying to those devices, but we won't be doing native phone development. Yes?
As far as your roadmap goes, what do you see as the biggest feature that is going to attract developers to maybe try the switch, the folders challenge or whatever, fetching challenge, away from some of the
Easel.
existing Eclipse IDEs?
Easel all the way. Easel all the way.
Is that not even a, maybe even a concern?
I think okay, so first of all, the Java wars are done. The Java wars are over. Like I used to work in a company where we did NetBeans and it was NetBeans against the world. I now work in a company where we do NetBeans, we do Eclipse, we do JDev, we got pieces of Eclipse inside of NetBeans, we got pieces of NetBeans inside of Eclipse. And my job now is not to make NetBeans successful, it's to make Java successful. So I'm less concerned about the whole switching thing than I used to be. Having said that, it's become pretty obvious, and I'm biased, and I think just by the fact that you're here, a lot of you will agree. I think NetBeans is better than Eclipse. I think we got better E6 support. I think we got better editor. I think we got better all this. And what we've seen is when you've got companies that are very entrenched and they've written their custom plugins and their whole team is on that, and maybe they got their project XML checked into source code and so forth, right? Having a 5% or 10% better editor, or even in the case of things like RESTful web services, 100% better support is not enough to break those people out of the development practices that they have. Now, giving them something that they completely don't have is, and that's what I think Project Easel and the advanced HTML5 tooling is going to do.
So John, I'm going to stop. I think we've run out of time. We can continue the discussions informally outside, but thank you once again for your time, and please keep this feedback notion going. Don't ever forget that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.